Hey guys, my name is Michael John Sunderland. I am a student. I sat the most recent September 2020 GAMSAT and scored an 82 overall and 91 in section 2. My preparation was an obsessive study of section 2. I probably studied 14 to 18 hours a day for around 6 months. And I stopped caring about halfway through that process about what the mark was. I have a kind of obsessive personality when I get my mind stuck on something, and I felt that there was something to uncover about what the task was provoking from students and investigating of students that I wanted to uncover and succeed in delivering on. I burnt through 7 tutors. I analysed 300 to 400 essays. I tried to find everything. I've read everything that there is, 10 pages deep on Google in however many search terms. And I've spent thousands of dollars. Along the way, I discovered a lot of a toxic meme that is in the Section 2 GAMSAT space, wherein guides, tutors, gurus present their ideas as if there is one way that Section 2 needs to be done, and if you don't follow it, you're not going to succeed. I, after receiving my results, within 48 hours, had 80 requests for tutoring. There was more demand than I could service at even $120 an hour. So I instead focused my intention to writing guides, books, now YouTube videos, to explain exactly what it was that I did and what I uncovered about what ACER want from an ideal task A and B response. I have a guidebook, The Philosophy of Section 2 Success, and I'm just finishing up the Task A Bible, which is a 45-page, 20,000-word description of exactly what it is that needs to be achieved in an ideal argumentative or expository response. I intend also to add on to that about 30 to 40 pages of my Task A essays from start to finish, showing you the journey of how I improved from where I started, which was a 60, by the way, to a 90 plus. So you can see exactly what that process looks like and how I got there. What I am focused on, though, is not on delivering a methodology that says, here, do this, or if your style isn't that too bad. There is a why that underpins everything that is in the style that I recommend, and a function that must be achieved. And by teaching you not what to do, but why I did it and what you need to achieve, you can understand what's required from the task and then do it in whatever way that you want to do. I'll, of course, suggest what I did for you to emulate if you wish, but it's more important that I think that I answer the question for people that I had, which is, what is it that separates a 75 from a 90? Because there is nothing that addresses this online. You can't pay for it. It doesn't exist. Everything is targeted towards how to get to a 75. Well, I found out how to get to a 90, and now I'm here to teach you. So what we'll do is we'll have a chat today about a very small subset of what it is that I uncovered, which pertains just to a task A, just to give you an idea of kind of the style of thinking of my content. Please subscribe and subscribe to the channel and like the video, but also I have a Facebook group where I work for free. I review, I analyse people's essays for them, give them pointers, upload resources in some of my blogs. You can search it on Facebook. It is the GAMSAT 2021 Section 2 90 Plus group. I'll put the link below the video so you can find it. So feel free to join there. I have a website, 90plusgamsat.com. I have uploaded 4 blogs so far, just chapters from the Task A Bible that I just mentioned. So I hope you find them useful. But I wanted to talk today about one of the blogs, and one of the things that I think go into making a great Task A structure. So I'll explain in detail in the middle of the video exactly what it is that's required in order to emulate that understanding and to improve your own score. And then towards the end of the video, I'll finish it off with another, how to end the essay or task essay, but another key idea that will begin you thinking about what's required from a task A response in a different way, and a way that is important if you wish to score at the highest level. Just a disclaimer before we do. ACER say in the GAMSAT information book that what is being tested is the quality of your thoughts and ideas. They then say after that they're also testing language and structure, but not in isolation, only insofar as it serves or contributes to the ideas and thoughts. To translate or interpret this for you, what you make from the task is what's being tested. The language and structure is or limits your ability to score highly in your telegraphing or conveying of what it is that ACER are looking for. So if you don't have a good handle on language and structure, I don't teach it, I'm an English teacher, I've got no idea how to get to a 75, can't help you. I can get you, and easier than you might think, from a 75 to a 90, because it takes a great deal of knowledge to get to a 75, to be good at English in general. To be honest, I think it's only a mindset shift to get to a 75 to a 90. So the disclaimer is, if you are not a competent writer or are struggling, don't use these ideas as a core or a nucleus of your approach. Make sure that you do have the foundations there, but once you do, for those that want to know how to get further, this is not it, but a portion of it. All right, let's get into it. So what I wanted to talk today about is the ontology of task A structure, the why, the being, the reason it's there. You want to have a think or ask yourself, why an essay? If you weren't required for GAMSAT to sit down and write 2 essays, why would somebody write an essay? What function would the first line of an essay, if you didn't have to but you wanted to, what would the first line of an essay achieve? Well, it would achieve giving the reader an understanding of exactly what it is that's being discussed and provide a context for the rest of the writing. It introduces the domain of the writing. Now, the domain of any piece of writing is going to necessarily be so large and complex and sophisticated that you can't possibly address it in an 800-word essay. So the next step is to designate or clarify what dimension or aspect of the theme, the idea that you want to deal with, or that the writing pertains to. A focus. It's good to have 2 focuses. Go like this. And the contention, the last line of an introduction, is the spear point, is a single strong opinion that you have about the focuses. The best way I've found to write a contention is to say in your head, the single strong opinion that I have about the focuses that I've announced to you, that I want to prove to you with the rest of my writing, is, you say that in your head, and then you write the contention. This forces you to be very focused. You get a sense from that description of an ideal introduction that there's a narrowing to a point, like a spear. I want to just briefly contrast this against the approach that I see 95% of people take. There are some 400 students in the Facebook group, so I've had some fortunate benefit of seeing a wide variety of responses. And in most cases, what I see, the first error is in the quote interpretation. What is made from the task, from the quotes, which in my opinion is the fundamental thing that's being tested. I don't think that GAMSAT is a test of your writing. It's a test of you. They're not looking at your writing, they're looking at where your writing is coming from. They want to see how you interact with ideas and themes and narratives within the world, about the world, how you integrate them, how you situate them within their broader social, political, economic, philosophic contexts, how you position your opinion in response to them, and the degree to which that is harmonious with or respectful of, or at a minimum sensitive of, other diverging views of that. That was a bit of a mouthful, but let me see if we can unpack that a bit further. The critical error that I see time and time again is the reduction of 5 incredibly deep, complex ideas about the world that have arisen from within oftentimes great amounts of expertise and at a minimum valid ontologies and sets of experiences and worldviews. And they reduce that prompt to a word, or more commonly and much worse, 5 prompts to 1 word. This is to not only misunderstand or reduce or simplify a prompt to a word, but it's to make the mistake of conflating the 5 prompts to 1 word. Or if you think you're being really sophisticated, maybe that there's some positive and negatives, which is still to conflate a point to positive of X, negative of X. The problem with this is that you've disfigured the meaning before you've begun. You've simplified these invitations to communicate, empathize with, or contrast complex topics into a word that you then need to write an entire essay about. So it makes your essay look like this. Here's your word, and you've got to go outwards like that. And this leads to pedestrian, simple writing. I like to think that the way that you interpret the quote sets the ceiling value of your essay. That's the highest you're going to get. And the way that you write and deliver on that is the extent to which you capitalize on the potential that's set by that ceiling value. It's really hard to write a bad essay from sophisticated, insightful, thoughtful ideas. It's really hard to write a good essay from simple, reductive, pedestrian ideas. So your interpretation and investigation and confrontation of the prompts needs to be sophisticated and deep and insightful. Given that you've done this correctly, you have, instead of a word and working outwards, you've got a lot, way more than you can deal with, that you then need to progressively narrow into a conclusion, which we do find a way to discuss. After having done so, there needs to be, in an ideal task A, a logical backbone to your writing. The way that you are able to exposit on your contentions in such a way as to plausibly telegraph or signal to the reader that it is a valid view to have is by setting up a series of premises that, if true, necessarily imply the validity or plausibility of the final conclusion. The way that, or a common or a famous way of achieving this is through Aristotelian logic, and a side note while I remember, if you haven't read Aristotle's Apology, which is his very logical and elegant and beautiful defense of himself in court on the date that he was sentenced to die, it is definitely worth a read. But I digress. The famous series of premises goes: if all philosophers, all philosophers are mortal, Socrates is a philosopher, therefore Socrates is mortal. So if it's given as correct that all philosophers are mortal, and if it's correct and true that Socrates is a philosopher, it follows kind of inarguably, given the truth of the premises, that Socrates is indeed mortal. You have, so far, an acknowledgement of theme, a focus, and an opinion. And in order to, I won't say prove, because we've discussed the subjective nature of truth, or at least the worthiness of interacting with truth from that pedagogy in a task to response. So we'll say, in order to underpin your contention, you want to design a trap, a coup, wherein you prove valid two premises, topic sentences, that support the contention. So, for example, if I wanted to prove my contention on the issue is that Socrates is mortal, my topic sentence 1 then functionally becomes the first premise: all philosophers are mortal. The reason that you have a body paragraph then is simply to provide a reasonable support of the position that all philosophers are mortal, such that at the end of that paragraph, your marker is reasonably satisfied of that philosophers are mortal. So you might say, and by the way, I'll indicate here that giving examples is not rigorous logic. It's an example of something. There could be 10 counterexamples which you happen to leave out. I'm not saying don't use examples, do. But be aware that they are not sufficient proof in and of themselves. I might want to, for example, say, well, philosophers are men or women or human, and humans and women are, or others, are mortal. And so far in the known and recorded history of people, there are no instances of people not dying. And if everybody dies, then that implies mortality. And so, given that philosophers are a subset of people which so far have all been mortal, it's reasonable to infer that philosophers share this particular characteristic of the larger group to which they belong. That is hint. So, if you're satisfied, philosophers are mortal. And then the next paragraph, or topic sentence, is that Socrates is a philosopher. The proof of which might be, well, philosophers do X, Y, and Z, and Socrates also did X, Y, and Z, and Socrates didn't do anything else that better befits him of another title or designation, so it is therefore reasonable to conclude that Socrates can be reasonably adequately described as a philosopher. Given then that you're satisfied that both philosophers are mortal and that Socrates is indeed a philosopher, it follows that Socrates must be mortal. But my contention is correct. And that's what the conclusion does. It ties your logical backbone, or the logical backbone of your essay, together in such a way as to make it evident that your contention is reasonable, plausible, kind of correct. If this is done well, it will be a bit mic droppy. Like when you really do it well, it's like screamingly obvious that you have a really good point, you've supported it well. You want to be careful here, though, not to interact with your reasoning from the place of I am absolute, to say in absolute terms that you're correct, and especially not to demean the opposing views. Because again, it's to say to the marker that you in 30 minutes on an unprompted topic know better than somebody who may have spent 4 years having that opinion, which of course is not a great quality to be conveyed in a document. So it becomes important in the very best writing to now turn to addressing another key dimension of a high scoring response. One of the things that I see most 75, 80 level writings devoid of, but which I think are one of the key things that separate good writing from the best writing. This feature of high quality writing is what I call psychometrics, and is an awareness of how you are positioning yourself and the conveying of your ideas and exposition to a marker from a psychometric standpoint, which is to say how you are indicating to the marker the qualities that you as a person have and the way in which you think, the maturity and sophistication and thoughtfulness of the way in which you think. In most students, it's common to demean or belittle opposing views, and many believe that this is stylistically appropriate in an argumentative essay. But as we discussed at the start of the video, it lacks an appreciation of the experiences in which that view arose and the limitations on your view on the basis of the experiences in which your view arose. If you've really done a task A well, it's a tour de force. It is precise, clinical, surgical, fast-paced, relentless. So it's appropriate and beneficial in the conclusion to say, or to acknowledge that there are limitations to your perspective, to acknowledge that there is validity in opposing perspectives, but also to, if we return to the why are we concluding? We've made a point, but why would you write an essay if you didn't have to? It's because you're passionate, you have an opinion, and it can be mature to not just vomit your ideas out on the world, but to, if you have a passionate opinion on something, to make a recommendation. Now, far too often I see recommendations which are not sensitive to the diverging interests of those with conflicting views. A common example, for instance, that comes to mind is students when responding to capitalism, who will invariably end with something like, wealth should be redistributed and we should tax the rich more. Okay, sure. What this fails to acknowledge is, in the first instance, the rich have power. This is oligarchical. Well, not so much in Australia, but in America at least. Democracy is oligarchical. If you think that you're going to get that particular recommendation through, in light of that, those who are disaffected by this suggestion are those with power. You're being naive. I don't have to put it in one way or the other. I have an investment in writing a good response, or a response that scores well. And a response that scores well will have sensitivity to the likelihood of, or the realism of a suggestion. If you don't think that you could get into office of Prime Minister or local government with that recommendation as a slogan, it's probably good. More importantly, though, about whether or not it's likely to get approved is whether or not it shows or conveys that you're sensitive to that people who have different opinions than you have valid opinions and experiences in which those opinions were created or originated. To be able to cohere disparate worldviews into a cohesive and common framework wherein progress on the matter at hand is achievable is a very mature quality to show in an aspiring medical profession. Less philosophically, more directly, what it looks like is something to the lines or to the effect of, in a world as multivaried as ours, there will inevitably be opinions and views that diverge from the one presented here and do so on valid and plausible bases. To suggest that all wealth should be distributed and that we should link hands and sing Kumbaya would be unreasonable and naive. We don't, however, have to agree on all topics to make progress. If we can simply agree that liberal economic philosophy is a foundational characteristic to the democratic foundations of contemporary Western societies, then we have an impetus for further discussion on the degree to which liberal economic philosophy or the potentials encoded within liberal economic philosophy are being realised or are not being realised contemporarily. That is, for instance, on an essay on liberal economic philosophy. But the point I'm making is that inevitably there's going to be different views. They are each valid. We're not going to agree on all points. To think that we would be naive. But we don't need to agree on all. If we can simply agree on this little thing here that is a common interest of these diverging needs, then we have a satisfactory reason for further discussion or to progress the issue. This shows an ability to progress, it's a sensitivity and a compassion and empathy of other ideas, but in such a way that you're able to make a recommendation or to progress the issue in a way that is functionable, realistic, and pragmatic to humanity as a whole, not just to your particular group of people or group of people who agree with your idea. And that's it. While I've given a particular recommendation of a structure, what I wanted to convey was not a prescriptive set of here's what to do, but instead to give you an indication that each part of an essay has a reason or a function for existing, linearly achieves a goal. The essay has a backbone. You should be able to strip your whole essay out to your 2 topic sentences and your contention, and it should read as premise, if true, then fact. It should read logically. This increases and inflates your concision, your clarity, the focus with which your writing is received. It keeps you on topic. It's an encouragement to or it enables the development or exploration of more sophisticated ideas because you achieve what needs to be achieved in a quicker, direct format. And it doesn't really matter whether you do it exactly as I recommended to, so long as you walk away from the video with an awareness of that. If you want to prove a point, you are able to engineer your essay in such a way that it does so rigorously. And in the second instance, to flag to you that reducing the prompts to a one-word theme is reductive and leads to simple, low scoring essays generally. And to instigate an awareness in the GAMSAT Section 2 space in general of what I believe ACER is really testing. That is who you are, how you think, and the degree to which you telegraph those psychometric, positive psychometric traits to ACER in the format. That is, to essays. I hope that's been of some use. I must apologise, I'm trailing, I'm feeling a bit fried. I've recently partnered with this phrase GAMSAT in order to clarify in collaboration how the very best should approach essay writing. So I've already done an hour video on the podcast with them today, which should be coming out shortly. So I wouldn't worry too much if that felt like a lot. It's useful in section 2 to spend some time reflecting in between exposure to various ideas, in between truths, for example, or after a video like this. Just let it marinate. I wouldn't make any drastic changes at this point. If you'd like to know more about the specifics of the approach that I'm discussing, and this isn't it in entirety, by the way, this is one chapter in a much larger book that addresses only one of these two tasks. So I could talk to you for hours about this stuff. But it's just some ideas that I hope will provoke more sophisticated discussion on section 2. But yeah, if you'd like more, please visit my website, 90plusgamsat.com. I've got some blogs up there. You can go and grab the guidebook. It's $150. I've got 2 90 plus essays, one task A, one task B, and an exploration of exactly what it is that I did, my approach, my methodology, all my resources, both free and paid, that I use for my own preparation, and a lot more detail on the specifics of what it is that ACER are looking for in an ideal response. And it was crafted as a 30-page response to the question, what is it that separates the 75? In the next week or so, I will also come out with the Task A Bible. Feel free to reach out to me on Facebook. You can look at my page, it's 90 plus GAMSAT. I mentioned earlier in the video the group. You're welcome to join. I work for free forever in that group. I'm going to sign off. Thanks for your time. I look forward to chatting with you again. Hit subscribe when the videos come out. You'll get a notification, and that'll keep you right on top of your section 2 as we head towards the next GAMSAT. Chat to you soon, guys. Thanks.